Okay, so the Motorola Pro never made it to the UK, but the Pro Plus is going to. There's the same 1 GHz processor, 3.1-inch VGA display, 512 meg of RAM, and Motorola's standard 5 megapixel camera. The Plus bit refers to an update to Android 2.3, 4 gigabytes of internal storage plus microSD, of course, an improved battery at 1600 mAh, and a sleeker design, apparently. Interesting device, and watch this space. No, your eyes don't deceive you. This is the phone show, and here I am reviewing a netbook. Except that it's not a netbook, it's a phone. Okay, well here's the phone. It's the Motorola Atrix tucked around the back. And this 11-inch screen, keyboard, trackpad, USB ports and so forth, are all just extensions of the phone. Motorola call this system Webtop, and it's the main unique selling point of the Atrix, a 2011 top-of-the-range dual-core Android smartphone. But let's start at the beginning, if I could get this off the dock. Not always as easy as it looks. It's a 4-inch screen, TFT QHD resolution smartphone running Android 2.2.2 at the time of writing, and with a 1 GHz processor and a whopping 1 GB of RAM inside. This latter is needed for handling Webtop, of which more in a moment. Motorola's hardware is as top-notch as usual, from multiple cellular antennae for superior reception to a very competent 5 megapixel camera and dual OD flash. There's a decent loudspeaker down at the bottom, and a very small bezel all round. It's really quite impressive considering the sizes of some other 4-inch screen Android phones. Underneath, the usual plastic battery cover is an 1880 mAh battery. Not the 1930 in the specs, but still a lot more than the competition, meaning that even with heavy use, the Atrix gets through a day's use without any issue. Well done, Motorola. My first complaint about the Atrix is the gimmicky fingerprint sensor mounted on the back. The idea is you press the button and then swipe your finger and it unlocks. Okay, this works okay, but unless you hold the sides of the phone very tightly, the fact that the fingerprint sensor is at an angle, quite a severe angle to the top, means that you press the button and the phone just slides out of your hand. Recipe for dropping and disaster, I reckon. Poor design. I can't see why the scanner wasn't mounted more or less flush to the top. Secondly, we're back to Nexus 1-like complaints so that the 4 capacitive buttons at the bottom of the Atrix have to be hit fairly high up. Here's the menu button, tapping the bottom half of the menu button, absolutely nothing. Hit it high up, and there we are. Not good. In terms of software, we've seen most of the Atrix's application set before in the Defy and the Milestone 2. Suffice it to say, it's a fast Android 2.2 phone with a Moto Blur home screen. Boo! There's quick office document editors, and in the review phone's case, a load of orange where that's best avoided. Given the screen resolution and size, the Atrix would have been perfect for media consumption, but Motorola hasn't licensed much in the way of codecs, and over half of my test videos just wouldn't play, coming up with an error message. This lack of compatibility comes back to bite again with the Webtop, as we'll see later. Talking of which, it's time to dock this baby. On the left side are micro USB and mini HDMI ports, which mate with connectors on the laptop dock like this. There we go. Open it up. The dock itself has no RAM, no processor, no storage. It's just keyboard, screen, ports and battery. Quite why it sells for an additional £250 is unfathomable. It can't cost Motorola more than £50 to physically make this. Despite the metal, it should be a £99 accessory to make the whole concept worthwhile. Yes, I said battery just now. The dock has a big one built in, and it's charged iPad style from a meaty power adapter. The good news about this is that it can then charge the phone's battery while docked, and the battery life of the whole combination is really rather terrific. Anyway, when docked, the Atrix uses a large chunk of its 1 GB of RAM to boot up a custom version of Linux with File Manager here, settings and top menu bar, entertainment center, that's a media player, and most importantly of all, the Firefox 3.6 web browser. Exactly the same code as would run on a desktop Linux box. And it handled basically every site I threw at it. Even key combinations are the same. Websites that are open on the Atrix get passed in URL form here over to the laptop dock with a prompt to open the same things on the Webtop. Here we go. Let's open that page. And there we are, opening on the Webtop in Firefox. And vice versa, when you stop browsing on the dock and want to go back to the phone. But it's clunky having to reload every page every time when you switch. But it does work, albeit slowly. The idea is that with many of us working in the cloud a lot these days, the presence of a good web browser is all many of us need. It's certainly great moving up to the big screen and the big keyboard. It's going full screen is a useful tip here, especially in Google Docs. But browsing speed never really gets close to that of a genuine lower-end Windows netbook. Yes, you have to remember this is all running on a phone, but then why wouldn't you just buy a netbook and simply tether it using Bluetooth or Wi-Fi from the Atrix? At all times, your Android Atrix smartphone is here available as a little window, and you can even make that full screen so that you can use your Android applications full screen as well. Let's go into my Gmail, for example. Here we go. Which is all rather nice. An Android smartphone and an 11-inch display. Very nice indeed. Of course, incoming calls and messages are handled too, with the dock speakers leaping into action as needed.
Sorry, the number you've dialed has not been recognised. Please check the number and redial.
Oh well. There's an Alt-Tab desktop-like system where you can scroll through your open windows in the Linux environment. There's an HD entertainment center, which basically just passes through some of your photos, videos and music through from your main phone SD card. So for example, if we go to our videos and have a look here, you get the same compatibility issues because it's basically the same playback engine under the hood in the phone. So here, here's a nice video. The video cannot be played. It's just so annoying. The laptop dock has 2 USB ports on the back, but this is just for memory sticks and a mouse. Anything more ambitious, and when I tried a webcam, simply brings up a not supported message. The absence of a front-facing camera on this is something of a puzzling omission, given that the Atrix's own is blocked by the screen. In fact, the angle of the screen itself is rather annoying. It doesn't lean back quite far enough. And when you put it on your lap, you're having to adjust the whole thing to try and get the screen at the right angle. If only it could just go back another 5 or 10 degrees. There's a huge cool factor about the laptop dock, though. It's sleek and it's metal and it's generally the ultimate smartphone accessory. But this being me, I just couldn't help but note a number of caveats. I've already mentioned the price. You could buy a totally standalone netbook for a lot less that would give far better performance and do a whole lot more. There's the screen angle. There's also the matter of timing. Now get your stopwatches out, go. Unfold that, pop the Atrix in its dock, open the lid, wait for the Linux distro to grind back into action. All takes around 10 seconds, sometimes longer. I'll wager that most netbooks could be opened and taken out of standby faster, so again the Webtop approach suffers by comparison. Then there's the bulk angle, at least from the point of view of the smartphone owner. We've been used to our phone doing everything, just one small device to handle all our needs, albeit with a 4-inch or so screen. But with the laptop dock, you're having to carry around a 1 kilogram hunk of metal, plus its heavy and bulky charger, and you've got the clunkiness of switching your workflow from smartphone Android to netbook like Linux, with all the reloading and rethinking that this involves. As another alternative, you might also want to consider using a much smaller and cheaper Bluetooth keyboard, £20–30, working in the native Android applications all the time. There's no doubting that the Motorola Atrix system is pretty well thought out and build quality is truly excellent. If you want a totally smartphone-based mobile office, this is about as good as it gets at the moment, at a price. What I'm looking forward to, though, is the next generation of this concept. Faster processors, more RAM, a more adaptable dock, better pricing, better media compatibility. I know. I want it all. In the meantime, I'll give you the Atrix.
Right, so we're going to take a quick look at the Pre 3. It's the same form factor as the Pre 2 and the Pre before it. Slide out QWERTY keyboard with a touchscreen on top. Hardware wise, it is the best hardware that we've seen on a Pre model. The keyboard is still a little bit cramped compared to some other phones. Screen's pretty average, it's not great outdoors. Hardware wise, there's no SD slot, SD card slot, and battery's pretty average. On heavy use you're not going to get through a day, but moderate use you'll probably be fine without a charger. OS wise, I'm not going to take you through all of WebOS. There's plenty of resources on the internet for that, but it is a very nice OS. Using the cards to swipe through your apps is really nice. The gestures are really good once you get used to them, and the cards are really intuitive, especially when they start stacking up for the tasks that are related to each other. Like a lot of other phones, you can just start typing from the home screen and that will search through your contacts and your apps. There's also a great feature called Synergy, where all your contacts will be linked through to your Facebook and your YouTube and your Yahoo and stuff like that. They also link in Skype, Yahoo, Gtalk for instant messaging. Skype's also built in right from the get-go, which is really nice integration. Apps wise and ecosystem, yeah, you're going to find a lot of apps are missing. In terms of there's no sat-nav, there's no LastPass, there's no barcode scanning. You're not going to find WhatsApp or Kick Messenger. The Facebook app wasn't actually available for the pre-free, right, and it's just come out this evening. Google wise, if you're into the Google ecosystem, you've got no G+, no Gmail stars, archiving, labels or message threading, and it won't sync your Google groups or favourites either. But it has got a few standard things. You've got Evernote, you've got apps for Dropbox, for Twitter, for Last.fm, for podcatching, you've got Angry Birds, what else do you want? The camera, it's a 5 megapixel unit. It has got an LED flash. To be honest, the photos and videos were a little bit disappointing. I expected a bit more with the HB hardware. There is no dedicated camera key, but you do get touch to focus in the camera app, which is pretty useful, but it's nothing to write home about. All in all, it's not a bad phone. It's hard to recommend, obviously, with WebOS's future in doubt. Personally, I bought this 3 hours before the announcement, so that was a bit annoying. Don't worry, I'm going to send it back and get a full refund. But unless you really like the form factor, or you like WebOS, or you want something different, say you're bored of all the iPhones and all the dull Android slabs, it's probably only something to tinker with. So yeah, the Palm Pre 3, and I'm off to bag myself one of those cheap touchpads. Quick before they go.